So good evening, everyone. Good to see you back again. Some new people and a number aren't here. We had such trouble, as you may remember, with sound last time. You're sitting further forward. That helps. Just put your hand up if you can hear. Okay. Everyone but Diane. But I think you can hear Diane. No, your mic's not on yet.
Right, have to turn.
There we go.
Now, can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah,
okay.
Good. Okay, and then Tanis.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I think we are
Way to
good
go.
tonight. So we'll see. And we have reworked some of our sessions, so we're doing less theory, less terminology, and try to focus more on practical meditations. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight, offering a variety of meditations where you can get a taste of all sorts of different ways to meditate, and follow up on whatever it is that grabs your heart, and that's the intent. Yeah, I guess I should introduce ourselves tonight. So, all right, that's good. So that's good. So my name is Lorraine Mackenzie Shepherd. I'm the minister here at Westworth United Church. This is Sensei Fred Ulrich, and this is Sensei Tanis Moore. They are both from the Manitoba Buddhist Temple. And this is I think I feel too far forward. There, I can see you better. This is our joint study between our two congregations, is how it started out. And then John Longhurst decided to run with it, and many people found out about what we're doing, and we're curious. So we're glad to have all sorts of people from different traditions or no particular religious tradition here tonight. So I welcome, and I also want to introduce Kyoko. I forgot to do that last time. So Kyoko, what's Kyoko's last name, Fred?
Her last name?
Yeah.
Ulrich.
Oh, okay. Same last name as Fred.
Yeah.
Fancy that. So
That's
Kyoko is Fred's wife, and she greeted you as you came in and gave you some handouts and whatnot. And Kyoko has been part of our planning team as well. So she's more than just a pretty face. she's an important part of our planning and helping us work on the content. So I turn this over to Fred. We're going to have a similar opening as we have the last week, and he will explain what he's doing there. And Diane, if there are sound issues, if you could just pop back and let Peter know during the session, if anything comes up, that would be helpful. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Okay, what we're going to do now is from the Soto Zen tradition, but it's used in many schools in Buddhism, and it's called just sitting there, being nobody, doing nothing, going nowhere. And we'll play the gong and sit in that attitude. And if you want to know what to do with your hands, the simple thing is just to grab one thumb and fold them together. Okay, like that. And you can put them on your lap or wherever you're most comfortable. There are many forms of doing this that are more complicated, but this is quite effective, okay, because you're integrating your hand. Okay, so I'm going to ring the gong, and we'll start this, and you'll have 3 minutes, and I will time it for you. And at the end of each minute, I'll ring the gong so you know that I'm not going over, because if you're not used to doing this, 3 minutes seems like a long time. Okay, just sitting there, going nowhere, doing nothing. And then we conclude by bowing to the meditation itself in gratitude.
Thank you, Fred, and I'm grateful to you for that. So that is a simple Buddhist meditation that's fairly easy to do at home. You have the basic words and concept there. There is a Christian meditation that is based on Psalm 46:10. And Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book Living Buddha, Living Christ, refers to Psalm 46:10, and he suggests that this small verse points to 3 basic steps to meditation: stopping, calming, and looking deeply. So for those of us who struggle with worry and anxiety, these 3 steps are a jewel beyond worth. So let's look at the 3 steps in this particular verse. So step 1, be still. So it means stopping what we're doing, stopping what we're thinking, stopping what we're worrying over, what we're fearing. When we can breathe into our anxiety and still our racing brain and heart, then we begin to move into that first step. And then the second step is calming, hopefully the result of the first step. So meditation has been shown to slow the heartbeat, to lower blood pressure, and it tends to lessen the urgency of the moment. There's a book called Tyranny of the Urgent. I certainly fall into that trap when everything seems to be crying out urgent. So stopping and then calming leads to step 3, to know, both with the head and the heart. It means to look deeply at all sides of an issue. It means to look deeply into our desires and into our shadows. And all of that happens in Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. So Cynthia Bourgeault has written books on centering prayer, and we'll be talking a bit more about centering prayer next week. But in some of her work, so this is one of her books she has on centering prayer, she leads a chant, and in some of her teaching leads a chant on Psalm 46:10, which I'll lead you in now. So I'll chant the first line, invite you to chant it back to me, and then we will drop one word at a time from the verse. Some of you know this and have done this before. So it starts like this. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. We'll leave a few moments of silence between each verse, each line. Be still and know. Be still and know. Be still. Be still. Be. Be. there's another chant you can take home. And sometimes it only takes minutes to just lower everything, your body, your anxiety, your fear, with something as simple as that. Every night I'll be speaking about a mystic from the Christian traditions. And tonight I want to speak a bit about Brother Lawrence. Has anyone heard of Brother Lawrence? You just put your hand up if you have. I'm just curious. I see some heads nodding. Ah, yes, a number of you have. So there's a little wee book called The Practice of the Presence of God. This is a newer version. I lost my older one, unfortunately. Brother Lawrence had trouble with his self-concept. He had trouble with anxiety. He was clumsy, often falling, certainly stumbling, because of an old war injury. He was acutely aware of his failings as well as his fallings. He was anxious that God would be punishing him for every time he messed up. And so he would spend often his entire prayer time trying to rid himself of imperfections and of distractions. But immediately upon rising from prayer, he would fall right back into them. He was disillusioned. He thought he would never make it to be good enough for God to accept and love him. But gradually, he began to learn that his failings and his fallings were simply part of his nature. And he talks about that in this little book. He learned to acknowledge them and then let go of them. Letting go is a very important part of meditation. So letting go of these, trusting that God's great mercy and forgiveness would be there for him. Now, Brother Lawrence also had trouble with formal church liturgy and complicated prayers especially, because his mind would wander all over the place. But in the kitchen, especially when he was peeling potatoes, he began to see his work as prayer. It was a type of meditation that allowed him time and space to simply be with God. So as he began to accept himself for who he was, clumsy and failing and falling, time and time again, he began to find a deep peace simply by being himself, by being open to God as well. So in this classic book, he wrote these words, "My soul, which had always been troubled, finally came to rest in a profound inner peace." Now, his most famous quote, I actually just learned what his most famous quote is, "Lord of all pots and pans and things, make me a saint by getting meals and washing up the plates." Well, I think Brother Lawrence learned what few of us ever realize. And that's the inner peace that comes from setting aside that ego-drivenness to be better, to be more successful, to be good enough. And in that emptying of that drive of the ego, he found space to simply be exactly who God had created him to be. Now, Fred, you talk about emptiness that leads to openness and compassion. So can you say more about that?
Yes, we call this, there are several names for the emptiness. One are concepts or experiences about it. One is the center within, and the other is the small, still voice inside of us. And it also involves infinite experience with infinite openness. So this, according to tradition, is the beginning of compassion, because we have a place within us from which we can look out on the world, and the world can present itself to us as it really is, and we make no expectations or no demands that it be one way or the other. And so in this position, we can see the suffering of all living things on our planet. And doing so, you become overwhelmed with compassion and humility. And that's the experience that this makes available to us, this infinite openness or the center within. I'd like to add a comment to what Lorraine talked about, someone working in the kitchen. In most Zen traditions and other traditions, but people know more about the Zen traditions in North America, it's quite common for a person who wants to join the monks to have to sit outside for 2 weeks and come to the door and beg every day. Then when he's let inside, he finds he has to work in the kitchen for 3 years before they even start teaching him. And it's also Zen tradition to choose your master from the people working in the kitchen. So many Zen masters have the tradition of washing dishes or cooking, and that process led them to enlightenment. So that is the process of work with an open and caring heart.
Thank you. So tonight's theme is inner peace. Next week's theme is outward peace, and in the following week will be earth peace. And I'll talk a little bit about that near the end. So for inner peace, I want to first ask both of you how you find, what works for you personally to find inner peace. So Tanis, do you want to start? You'll need to pull your mic really much closer than that. There we go.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to be...
No, of course, of course.
I just wanted to say that I really felt, the idea of... What I do is I wash dishes. I love washing dishes. I mean, I don't have a dishwasher anyway, but I love washing dishes, and I find just in that activity, there's calmness and centeredness, and it's in the moment, because in the moment you have to pay attention to the dishes that you're washing. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I do is just sitting quietly, centering myself. I have a small personal altar at home, so I spend time there every day, and I find that very calming.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Fred, do you ever get anxious?
Yes, of course.
People who've been practicing meditation forever seem to be forever tranquil. You're
Not
one
me.
of them. No? So when you're not feeling that inner peace, what do you do to help you get there?
Well, my wife and I are both heavily involved in gardening. My wife is a master gardener, and over at the Millennium Garden. Pardon? You can't hear me?
Okay, move it closer to you.
Okay, here we are. Is that better? Okay. My wife and I are involved in gardening, and she's a master gardener, and she does wonderful work. But when I get sort of down about the state of the world, or down about personal events, I go to the garden, and especially on days when I can watch the plants grow. And you go to the garden one day, and the plants are so high, and you go to the garden the next day, and they're so high, and the trees are all green, and there's trees around, and I just love to be there because I feel life, and the trees are teaching me their wisdom, and the carrots are teaching me their wisdom, and then have a few voles. They have a coyote living in the little forest next to their garden, and that's my happy place. So I go there, and that makes me feel whole and in touch with things that are really important again.
And when there's snow outside, where's your happy
That's
place?
possible too, but in Winnipeg you have to have a really good winter jacket. But you can meditate in the snow, yes.
Yeah.
And do you do anything at home? What might help you? Like any particular types of meditation you find personally helpful?
Yes, I have, I recite the Buddha's name, as much as, that we're going to do later with the fish, the gong here. I recite the Buddha's name, and I do that several times. Then I have objects that I touch, like they're on the shrine, statue of our founder of our school of Buddhism. And then I have a sit-down Buddha statue that has curly hair, and I touch that lightly, and then I chant the triple treasure, which is going to the Buddha for refuge, going to the Dharma for refuge, and going to the Sangha for refuge. And I chant that in Pali, which is Buddha's language, English, and Japanese 3 times. And that really settles me and gives me perspective on things.
I was just going to add that.
Sure.
The other thing for me is being outside in nature.
Move closer.
The other thing for me is being outside in nature, walking in the trees or sitting in the forest, or things like that connect me. I'm fortunate to live close to the Assiniboine River, so I walk down there all the time, and there's trees and plants, and that really fills me up with peace.
Yeah, thank you. So, so those help me too. Being in nature certainly is my go-to place. I love winter and summer and all seasons, actually, as long as I can be outside. When I start to feel anxious or fear or some of those emotions, I find the very first thing I do is to start to constrict. So my muscles tighten, right? It could be my neck, it could be, usually it's my neck and on my shoulders. I might, depending on how strong the trigger is, I might find myself becoming a bit restless or defensive or wary even, and that would be a really strong reaction. And I've found that if I can catch myself soon enough, like if I can identify these things that are happening to me soon enough, then I can breathe into them. So breathing, Tanis is going to teach us a breathing meditation shortly, but breathing into them, that tightness, that worry, that tension, helps me to intentionally open those constricted spaces. And I could do that if I catch myself soon enough. If I don't, then it will get increasingly restricted, and I will get increasingly tense, and may not even notice it. And usually my partner is the first person to notice that, in fact, something is going on, and I need to be able to address it fairly soon. So my partner helps as well in bringing that to mind as to what I'm doing. It is a lesson in humility, for sure. My guess is that I'm not alone in struggling with those things. I think probably everyone has triggers, and so to identify what the triggers are is also helpful, besides the reaction to the triggers, and then to find ways to open that heart space that has become protected. Because we protect our heart, right? That's why we curl in. So even some physical exercises, like intentionally opening up and stretching up to get those muscles in the back to keep from doing that constriction. Physical ways of exercising actually helps. Yoga also helps me as well. So Yes, please, yeah. But you have to move the mic towards
Yeah,
you.
I know. Okay, I'm going to swallow this here. Okay.
I'm going to be a nag tonight with
After
the mic.
you've practiced meditation, breathing meditation, which Tanis is going to talk about, and you get follow your breath in and out in a very relaxed way, and you begin to understand that, then there's also something called blasting. And that is, you imagine you're blasting all this stuff out of yourself. So you first get into a meditative sense, and then you 3 times. And you do that three times, and you blast all the junk out, and that's the idea. And you can be calmer, and you actually see athletes practicing this just before a game or something, or before they have to perform. And they may not do it that dramatically, but they've been coached. You get tight in the heart space, you get tight in your throat, and sometimes you get very impatient and you just blast. Like that, and that relieves the stress, so you can deal with it, what things that are bothering you on a more creative level.
Great, thank you. So let's hope the Blue Bombers do a lot of blasting. So, Tanis, do you want to take us into another type of meditation that you do, and talk a little bit more about breathing?
Okay, well, I think I was going to start with some qigong.
Oh yes, okay, yep.
Okay, and
yeah, but you have to move way closer.
Yeah, but for that I have to stand up. Everyone has to stand up. Or if you're not comfortable standing, you can sit. You can even do this lying in bed if you're ill. But if you're capable of standing,
now let's adjust this so we can.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna.
Is that good?
That's good, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna move this.
As long as you can speak into it, and this can
Okay.
swing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to just, I have to have some room to move, so maybe if I do it this way, I don't know. So basically, you're standing or sitting.
You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this off here, and I'm going to hold it. And you can ignore me.
Yeah, okay.
You can ignore me. Okay, there, we got it.
So basically, you're standing with your feet. I'm going to move up a little bit. Sorry, I just have to be up here. So your feet are basically shoulder width apart. So there's your shoulders, there's your feet, and straight forward. I'm looking at mine, one's already crooked. Okay, so straight forward, and you let your knees just relax. They're not straight tight, they're just slightly relaxed. Your shoulders are down and relaxed, so you can kind of shake like this and you can feel that you're relaxed, and your head and your neck are relaxed. And you just stand here for a moment and think about your breath. So you can breathe in and out. And as you breathe in, our breath comes into 3 different parts of our lungs. The first part is up here, and if you hold these fingers together like that, the index finger and the thumb, that brings the breath into this area. So you can just try that and see if you can feel it. And when you breathe up there, your shoulders kind of lift up a bit. And then the next area is here, around where your stomach is. And for that, you use the 3rd finger and your thumb, and the breath will come into that area. So just try that. And then the lower area, you put these 2 fingers together and see if you can feel your breath going down there. Now, in Qigong and other martial arts, this area here, just below the belly button, is called the Hara, or the Dantian, and this is the center of balance for your body. And if your Dantian is really working well, you just feel balanced, you're able to walk more balanced, and it's where your body is centered. So if you breathe all the way here, and down into the Dantian, you're taking a proper breath. And you can feel, as you breathe in, that your shoulders slightly lift, your back expands, and as you breathe out, it all lets go. So just take 2 or 3 breaths like that on your own pace, however you breathe. There's no pressure, just be relaxed with it. And if you want to, you can feel the breath as it goes into your lungs. So when you're breathing also into this area, you're giving yourself energy and power. And remembering your shoulders are relaxed, your knees are slightly bent. So this is your stance. And when you first learn Qigong, you stand like this. You can stand like that for an hour. After you work up to it, but then you just don't get tired of standing because your body is perfectly balanced. And now what I'm going to do, if you want to sit down, I'll lead a...
Okay. I'll put, okay, wait till I put this in here before you talk some more. Okay, if you sit down, I'll lower this.
Okay.
Wait a second. I just need to tighten it. Is that the right level?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
good.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
There, that should be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is read a Thich Nhat Hanh, Breathing and Healing, called Looking Deeply and Healing. Aware of my body, I breathe in. Smiling to my body, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the pain in my body, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the pain in my body, I breathe out. Aware of the contents of my mind, I breathe in. Smiling to the contents of my mind, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the pain in my mind, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the pain in my mind, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the pain of fear, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the pain of fear, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of insecurity, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of insecurity, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of sadness, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of sadness, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of anger, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of anger, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of jealousy, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of jealousy, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of attachment, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of attachment, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of being caught, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of being caught, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the feeling of joy, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the feeling of joy, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the joy of liberty, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the joy of liberty, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the joy of release, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the joy of release, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the joy of abandoning, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the joy of abandoning, I breathe out. Looking at the roots of the neutral feeling, I breathe in. Smiling to the roots of the neutral feeling, I breathe out. And just sit with that for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanis or Fred, do either of you want to say, I'll start with you, a little more about smiling. Why is smiling important in meditation? You mentioned it's a key part.
Well, if you smile, all the muscles in your face are relaxed. And when you're stern, and when you're upset and angry and you frown, all of your muscles are tightened. So with smiling, you're allowing yourself to be calm and relaxed and feel safe. And with other expressions of anger or whatever, you're not, because your whole body tenses. Even if it doesn't really look like it, your whole body is tensing. Like Lorraine was saying, how she tenses up without really knowing it, you know. So the smiling just eases all of that. And maybe Fred has one to try.
Yeah, many statues of the Buddha have a smile, and that's called the archaic smile. And sometimes when he was writing a lot of letters and emails, I always finished them with Buddha smiles, you know. And we talked about this center within. If you find that center, you're comfortable and you're open, and you are smiling because you have found the sweet spot, you know, and you're balanced, and you are composed. He was composed, and he was sitting in just the right place.
Thank you. Great. So where are we? 8:12. So this is good. We're right on schedule. So the plan for the rest of this evening is to give you about 15 minutes or so to talk with a few neighbors around you about what you find helps you find inner peace. What are some meditation techniques or prayers or physical movement, anything that you found that works for you to help you move into that inner peace? And then when we finish that, we've decided not to have a plenary sessions. I think we'll just go from there back into another type of Buddhist meditation that will be using the, what do you call that?
Fish.
Oh, the fish. Okay, the fish. All right, we'll be using the fish.
Yeah.
Quite a vigorous kind of meditation. So not all meditation is quiet or silent. So that will move us into there. And then we will end with another kind of Christian meditation, and that's based on a Taizé chant. So you were given little booklets when you came in, and we will be using that. And I'm so pleased that we have our Taizé team back with us. I'll say a little bit more about Taizé later. So we have about about 15 minutes or so. So if you'd like to find 2 or 3 people around you just to talk about what helps you find inner peace. No. Thank you for your discussions. Seems like there was a good buzz happening, lots of good ideas going back and forth. I would love to have eavesdropped into them to learn some more from each of you. So we are now, well, actually, before I forget, just so you know, we are recording these sessions, and some have already said that they're appreciating that. They can listen to it if they can't come, or can actually listen to it again if they want, and some are doing that. So just so you know, it's on our website, and I do believe tonight's actually live streamed. Not so much because people are watching right now at this very moment, but it's easier to record that way. So we might do that for the next 2 sessions, just so you're aware of other ways to access this. So now we move to your chat. Do you want to explain a bit about what you're about to do?
In this chant, we're going to chant in Buddha's language. In our temple, we use about 5 languages, and it's hard to, maybe it's typical of our temples. We, because we have such a mixture of people, but because our religion is so old. When Buddha was alive, there was no Christianity and there was no Islam. And it was another time. So, what I want to do tonight is, I want to emphasize one thing that is very important, and I have developed that in the course of my ministry, and understood a place for Buddhism in that, where I realized many people think that violence and warfare and weapons are the strongest things in the world. And we fear them. But what we forget as human beings is that our capacity to love something is of primary importance. human beings can love anything. They can love pet rats. They can love cactuses. They can love cars. They can love their house plants and talk to them. What a capacity that is. Humans can love almost anything. And that's what we forget about ourselves. And we tend to get that clouded over. And people think that those who operate on what we call loving kindness in Buddhism are weak and kind of wimpy. But those are the people who know how to love and how to be loved are some of the strongest people in the world.
I would say the Ukrainians are the strongest people in the world right now.
Okay.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Sorry?
What did you say?
It's okay.
Okay, so now we're going to do, I talked about having 5 languages, and one of them is Buddha's language, and one is Japanese that is spoken at home, and one is classical Japanese, and one is English. That's 4. I'll leave it at 4, I guess. And you can hear these languages in any one of our services. So hearing something in Pali, which is closest to what Buddha spoke 5,600 years ago, we are speaking Buddha's language. And that's why we don't mind keeping our center chants that we use every day in Buddha's language. So what we're going to chant, I'm going to have you practice, is Namo Maha Metta Bodhi. Take refuge in the great loving kindness awakening. Or take refuge in the infinite wisdom and light that surrounds us and sustains us. It can be various ways translated. So let's try the first word, and then we'll do it with this, okay? Namo.
Namo.
Take refuge. Namo. Maha.
Maha.
In the great. Metta.
Metta.
Bodhi.
Bodhi.
Awake. Metta is loving kindness. And these words can all be looked up on your iPhone. If you hear a Buddhist word and you want to know what to do, well, that's what it means, right? And so take advantage of that. Metta, if you look up Metta, you'll get 100 hits. M-E-T-T-A. So, and the same thing for Bodhi. Bodhi means wake up, and it's something that mothers used to say to their children in Buddha's day if they were late. Bodhi, 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 right? And Buddha's tree is the Bodhi tree, and the Buddha's name, Buddha, means Bodhi. So Mr. Awake sat under the awake tree and awoke. That's the history of Buddhism. Okay.
So say those words again.
Huh?
Say those words again.
I will, yeah.
Okay,
we'll do
good,
it. We'll
good,
practice
good,
them,
good,
okay?
good.
So let's practice them again. Namo
Namo.
Maha
Maha.
Metta
Metta.
Bodhi.
Bodhi.
Namo
Namo.
Maha
Maha.
Metta
Metta.
Bodhi.
Bodhi.
One more time. Namo
Nama.
Maha Metta
Metta.
Bodhi.
Bodhi.
After that. I think of things to tell you, in my experiences. In Japan, they build temples with wooden nails, not with iron nails. And that's because it'll last for 300 years. If you build it with iron nails, it only lasts for 100 years. You build it with these other wooden nails it'll last for 300 years. And I went one evening walking, and I found a community who were chanting something like this, And because the buildings were floating like that, because in Japan those old buildings are made to float because of so many earthquakes. But you get about 400 people chanting a chant like Namo Mahametta Bodhi, Mahametta Bodhi for 2 hours. And the building just kind of lifts up and kind of floats like that. Okay, so there are people that dedicate themselves to just one chant, and that's what their Buddhism is all about. And this is one that you can do. Namo Mahametta Bodhi. Okay, so I'm going to ring the bell. Then I'm going to ring the fish 3 times. And then we'll start chanting. Namo Mahametta Bodhi, 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 Namo Mahametta Bodhi. 3 minutes of silence. Namo Mahameta Bodhi, Namo Mahameta Bodhi, Namo Mahameta Bodhi, Namo Mahameta Bodhi.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. So, just a few things about the next couple of weeks before we end with a final meditation, and this would be from a Christian tradition. So next week is about outward peace. We're going to talk about letting go, about how to find a third way, a non-dualistic way of resolving conflict that doesn't side with either polarized opinion, but somehow finds a third way through the middle. What we're doing tonight prepares us for that discussion for next week. We will be having, and centering prayer is one of the things we're going to be practicing as another form of meditation next week, a little bit of instruction around that. Guest musician next week will be Phoebe Mann, who's a percussionist. Actually, she's my sensei. That's another story. But it is great to have her with us next week. And then the following week, the last week, will be Earth Peace. We'll focus more on the environment and how our meditation, our inner peace, our world peace can come together and assist with earth peace. We will, amongst other things, we'll be learning a walking meditation. And at the end, very last part of the session, we'll be walking out with them, walking meditation, to one of those big elms in the front of the church. You may have seen in the Free Press a few weeks ago, both of these two senseis ordaining a tree outside the Manitoba Buddhist temple. And so they've asked if they can do the same here outside Westworth. So we'll be engaged in that. And they've asked me to give a Christian blessing to the tree too. So it'll be an interfaith ordaining of the tree, which will symbolize our dedication and commitment and care for the environment. But a very unique way of doing that. So that's a little synopsis of what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So the concluding chant we will do this evening, it comes from Taizé, and just a brief history of Taizé. It's a little village in France. And during the Second World War, Brother Roger moved from Switzerland to France, right on the borderline of the German occupation, in order to try to provide a place of refuge for people who were fleeing intense fighting. They began sheltering refugees in this little community they established there. It included Jewish people, and it included German prisoners of war who were at an intern camp nearby. So from its very beginning, it learned the important role of reconciliation within Christian ministry. It's a Protestant monastic community now, and they work with a sister convent nearby, so that they work with women as well. It's primarily for youth to come. Youth come from all over the world, and the youth and the brothers are sent around the world, particularly to places of conflict, where they bring their prayers, their meditation, and teachings of reconciliation. So that's a bit about the community of Taizé. They have put together some, I think, quite incredible music, which leads us in Taizé chants, which forms the centerpiece of Taizé prayer. We are finally at Westworth going to be beginning our Taizé services again. So first Sunday evening of Advent will be the first time we will resume our Taizé chants or Taizé prayers since COVID shut us down. It's a long time to be without that. And there's an amazing Taizé team that I love working with who will lead us tonight in one chant, just to give you a taste of what it's like. If you'd like to have more of that, the first Sunday evening in December at 7:30, we'll be having that here at this church. So I think that's all that I need to say before we begin our closing chant. Just double check my notes here. Yeah, I think so. So if you want to take your booklet and turn to page 6, Dona Nobis Pacem is the chant that we will be chanting. So I invite the team to come forward now. Yes, if you'd like to, or you can stay here. No. Okay. Oh, good. This is probably a different one than you know, but yeah. So the purpose of a chant is to, I think, am I still on? Poor Peter, I keep changing what I've told him we're going to do. The purpose of a chant is to repeat the words over and over again until you can move sort of underneath the words and right into the very heart. Let it sort of resonate within you. We'll be repeating this a number of times with various musical versions of it, and then we will end a cappella. So thank you for tonight, for coming, and we hope you are able to come for the next couple of weeks. Blessings on you this evening.